He's here. Okay, Twyla. Here. Mary Howell. Here. Sherry Winters. Here. Chris Ellison. And
Can I make a comment on that? I thought we received something from Sarah maybe that Chris was stepping down from the position.
He has stepped down and reached out to Reynolds to see if they want to replace his position.
Okay. Okay, and Deputy Moore. Here, I see him. And Mike Weston up here, and Kimberly Carl.
Here.
Okay, I didn't say the sanitary Weston was not here. Okay, let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item number 3, public comment on non-agenda items. I'll open up public comment. Anybody online wishing to address the committee, please unmute and state your name for the record. Okay, seeing no one. And there is no one in chambers that is from the public, so. All right, I'll close public comment on non-agenda items. Next up is number 4, approval of the October 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes. You guys had a chance to look at them? Do you have any corrections?
I was good with it.
Okay, so entertain a motion. And a motion for accepting meeting minutes? You guys have that?
Sherry Winters, let's say this right. I make a motion to approve the minutes for October 7th, 2025 for the Troutdale Public Committee, the Troutdale PSEAC Committee.
That was October 2nd.
I'm sorry, October 2nd, 2025.
Okay.
Second.
I love that.
It was the second,
Actually,
actually.
a second.
Okay.
That was a lot easier.
Is there any more discussion?
I keep looking at Paul because he's the one who normally catches things.
Okay, well, let's, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Passes. Okay, so let's go on to number 5. We've got an update on the Hope teams.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a little PowerPoint. I don't know if that's something that's
You can go ahead and
possible.
plug it into, laptop. I think that's-
You think- Maybe plug into that one, or this one?
Does that have ports?
I don't know.
It doesn't have ports? Okay,
Yeah.
and that I'm really.
Are you savvy? Because if you know it.
I am not,
Do you know, Kimberly?
I do not, but I have some instruction sheets, I'll look at that.
Okay, so, yeah,
I mean, we could do it that way.
we love pictures if you have, so.
I don't see a USB.
Is that
If I could
the computer you
just-
have?
Technically, you could share it with any computer.
So if I plugged it into mine and then just tried to share, maybe I'll try. Sure. I'll try.
Why doesn't this next say ask to
What does it say?
Oh, if you was talking, it wouldn't hear. I probably that.
Oh, sorry.
These other ads suddenly popping up on my laptop.
If it's too complicated, it's really okay. It's only like 7 or 8 slides, but
I'm trying to second, I found it, opened it, but then I'm realizing I might need a software issue. Let's see. Just going to share the screen here.
Hey,
Looks
There we
great.
go.
success.
Is it success up there?
Frank's giving a thumbs up.
Okay. Okay. No, but you probably want me to hit the play button, so let's see.
Or you manually click through this.
Okay, I'm gonna just-
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you can just go straight to the third one, it's fine. First two are just kind of intro, but yeah, that third one, perfect. So my name's Brian Gerkman, I'm a sergeant on the Hope team, I'm the sergeant on the Hope team. Currently, it's me and one deputy who are assigned to the team. When we're fully staffed, it's me and 2 deputies. The team was established as a full-time unit in 2017. I've been on the unit since 2021. The purpose when the sheriff put it together was to try and bridge the gap that existed between law enforcement and the homeless community. Obviously, there was a lot of friction between those 2 groups. So the idea is that we could go out there and kind of be that police agency or be that police unit for the homeless, as well as try and mitigate issues that happen between the homeless and the housed community, things that affect livability, as well as try and get the homeless pointed in the right direction as far as improving their lives, getting on a path to, being housed. Like I said, the core objective is for us to get out there and connect people with social services. And then obviously enforcement comes as a secondary piece, but it is a big piece for us. You can go on to that next slide, please. That outreach first philosophy. So when we interact with the homeless community, we're trying to get to know them, try and understand what their underlying issues are, what's keeping them from kind of progressing towards a more traditional housed lifestyle. Sometimes that takes time, especially being uniformed police officers, but in the 4 years I've been on the team, I've gotten to know most of the homeless people in East County. Obviously, we have a percentage of the population that kind of comes and goes, and they move around quite a bit, but we also have a pretty large just East County population that stays out here. So I've gotten to know them really well. And we've connected many with social services. Some have gotten housed and then have come back out on the streets for various reasons. And then, like I said, that enforcement part is a big part of what we do, but we try and do that second. But at the end of the day, once a camp is causing livability issues for the city, for the house community, we do end up needing to address that. And we try and treat everybody with respect. Everybody we come across, we just try and treat them like everybody else that we would interact with. And you go to the next one, please. So there's a lot of laws surrounding homelessness. It can be very complicated. In, I think it was 2018, the Ninth Circuit made a couple of court rulings, Mark versus Boise and Grants Pass versus Johnson. That's an Oregon case. It essentially said that enforcing anti-camping laws is cruel and unusual punishment unless people have an alternate place to go. When those rulings became case law, Oregon created state law based on those case rulings. Well, then the U.S. Supreme Court overturned those rulings, throwing it out, but we still have our state law that's in effect, so we still have to abide by essentially those court rulings. It's not an exact match, but it's pretty close. So Oregon state law really lays out how we can remove camps, how we interact with the homeless, and then what needs to happen when we do remove a camp from public property. One of the things that I have noted in here, because it does cause some complications, is when people camp on a public right-of-way, like a sidewalk or like the side of I-84, while that camp can ultimately be moved if we follow all the steps laid out in law, we can't trespass somebody from a public right-of-way like we can a business or privately owned property, or even some public properties like parks are a little easier to trespass from if someone commits a crime or park rule violation. But a right-of-way is where people are allowed to go, sidewalks, roadways. So shoulders, we see a lot of people that camp out on shoulders. We can't just come and trespass them from that property. So that can be kind of a complicated situation. I don't know if you guys are aware of the pretty large camp along 84 on the north side of the outlet mall. So I was there for several weeks. One of the issues is he's on a public right-of-way, so we couldn't just show up and say, you're trespassed from the property. Because he can be there. If you go to the next one for me. So in Oregon, we have to give all camps on public land a 72-hour posting notice. So 72 hours before the cleanup, their site has to be posted in both English and Spanish. There are a couple of exceptions to that rule, but they're very rarely used. Things like imminent danger, public safety, things like that. We could go in and say, no, this camp needs to be moved now, such as if a tent was blocking an entire sidewalk. We're gonna say, no, that's a public safety issue, you need to go now. Part of the posting has to have where their property is being stored and how they get it back. It also has to have the cleaning date on. So one of the complications for us is Multnomah County, at least the sheriff's office, we don't own any property out here. So whoever's the owner or controller of that property, like the city of Troutdale or Metro or Port of Portland, they have to be the ones to say, we want this property cleaned or we want this camp removed. Here's the cleaning date, here's the information for the posting. So I can't just run out and post a camp at anyone's request. I have to have that information on the posting. When it's gonna get cleaned and where that property is gonna go. So that we really rely on those agencies like the city of Troutdale or Metro or any of the other agencies that are out here in East County. They're the ones that ultimately have to care for their own property. We're just the enforcement arm that comes in and helps them remove that camp. And feel free to ask any questions if I'm not clear.
I'm gonna interrupt.
Yeah.
So City of Troutdale, when we request it, we have to also have a way to store their property while they're.
Yes, but it doesn't have to be stored by the city. It can be stored by a third party. Usually the city's used Rapid Response or other private companies where they will pay that company to come in, clean the camp and remove personal property and store that for the required 30 days is usually what cities do. But sometimes cities do end up having to take that property. The sheriff's office does not take property from a clean camp for the contract cities. The cities are responsible for that. And the cleanup has to be within 7 days of you posting the notice. So it's a pretty small window. It's a 4-day window. So I need to know what is the cleaning day. That's something that can hold us up at times.
Can you, this might be a ridiculous question, what is deemed property and what is deemed garbage?
That's a great question. That's up to whoever's cleaning the camp. So if the city of Troutdale is taking that on, the city of Troutdale is responsible for saying that's personal property, that's garbage. And if a judge ultimately says, no, you were incorrect in that, then they would have to deal with that. So if it's, let's say along 84, ODOT is the agency that has to be responsible for that. I know like Rapid, they err on the side of caution and they'll store a lot of property, even if most of it might be garbage, just for that 30 days, and then they'll dispose of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so,
does most of the time it just gets disposed of?
you know, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know how much property gets returned versus not. That's not something I've ever been asked.
Well, I was thinking that you wouldn't even know what belongs to clean up the camp. You have no idea
Yeah, so.
who for sure it
Yeah.
belongs to.
Potentially not. Most of the time out here in East County, I would know who lives at that camp, but yeah, it can be tough sometimes. And obviously people come and go from camps. Certain campsites can be used by multiple people. It can be complicated. If you go to the next one. So this is talking about that personal property storage. That personal property has to be stored for 30 days, has to be within 6 blocks of a transit station. And again, contract cities are responsible for setting that up if they're the ones asking for it to be cleaned. I think I talked about it on the next slide, if you can go to the next one. Yeah, so some of the complications around Troutdale is there's so many government entities. Right outside, you have the Department of State Lands, the feds, then you have state parks. Inside, you have Port of Portland, City of Troutdale, Metro, you have the Reynolds School District that owns property that gets camps on it. And each agency has a different approach, different policies, and then they want something different out of those interactions. So it can be very complicated. A lot of times we take in the community complaints, which we appreciate because it's the communities who's telling us where these camps are. But at the end of the day, it's not on sheriff's office or Multnomah County property. So people will tell us, get this clean, and we say, well, that's a city park. We'll let the city know, we'll go try and get that camper to move, to see if we can just go say, hey, you're not in a spot that's viable, you're not gonna be here very long, let's find you a spot where you're gonna be able to stay maybe longer or get them into shelter. But at the end of the day, the sheriff's office doesn't have any property that we can just go out and clean on our own. So that's why it takes all these various agencies to be the ones to kind of step up and clean their own property. I know recently, like Port of Portland's done a pretty good job. We get a lot of camps on Reynolds School District property. They have some properties that don't have schools on them, just kind of large wooded areas that they own. So those are some of the struggles, just because each agency kind of wants something different out of it, and so it can be complicated. And our MCSO policy mostly mirrors the new ORSs that were put in place in the last 3 or 4 years when it comes to interacting with the homeless, and obviously it requires each city to have a reasonably objective city ordinances and policies when it comes to enforcing anti-camping laws, which Troutdale probably has one of the best ones in East County. You can go to the next one. One thing that Troutdale gets quite a bit, which you guys have seen, is people camping or living in vehicles. This is another complicated situation for us. We try to avoid taking those cars if we can, because it's just gonna put somebody sleeping outside. The cars are, generally speaking, they're sheltered, they're living in them. We do encourage vehicle campers to move every day or two as much as they can to avoid, getting those complaints and having them start to violate city ordinance by being in one spot for too long. What we end up getting is we try and get them to stay away from residential areas or away from businesses during the daytime. You guys have probably seen like Home Depot seems to be a really common spot in Troutdale that people camp in cars. There was a few out on Marine Drive a couple weeks ago. Some people saw. I think it got to a point where there was probably 4 or 5 cars out there. That became a problem. So we try and encourage people, hey, move around. Don't just set up camp in one spot. Don't spread out your belongings. It's mostly, I think it's working for the most part, but every now and then we do get someone who just sets up camp and they do become a bit of a problem. RVs are complicated because RVs, in order to tow them, you have to pay for the tow, the storage, and the disposal all up front. So Troutdale is one of the only cities in East County that we serve that has a budget for towing RVs, so it's less of an issue in the city of Troutdale, but the city is responsible for all those fees. So not only do we have to go through the process of like tagging the vehicle for tow, but it's also a camp, so we're treating it like a camp as well, posting it for cleanup. And then the other complication is if somebody's living in there and refuses to come out, it's tough for us to get them out. Like they technically are committing a crime of interfering, but we're not gonna like force entry into their RV to get them into the vehicle. So it can just be another complicated situation. Thankfully, in the 4 years I've been on the team, I think Troutdale's only had to tow a handful of RVs and they've all gone pretty smooth. But yeah, I know you guys have probably kept up with the cleanup effort that was going on in 1,000 Acres. That pushed a lot of camps out. We've been dealing with those. Port Properties had a lot. The Metro property behind Mount Hood Community College in the city, that's had quite a few camps pop up. We've been trying to deal with those. And then this summer will be very interesting to see because we always get a spike of Portland homeless that come out to East County in the summer. So they usually live in 1,000 Acres. So if DSL is keeping up on their enforcement, it'll be interesting to see where those people end up, if they end up going back to the city or just trying to camp in other parts of the Sandy River.
So is it certain that nobody is down there camping right now?
Well, right now there actually is. A camp just got posted today. But again, that is just the state-owned side of 1,000 Acres. So 1,000 Acres is probably 85 or 90% owned by or controlled by the federal government. And the Department of State Lands has about 10%. That 10% is clean. The rest of the 90% belongs to the federal government, and there are some camps on that. But the population is a lot less than it was. Prior to the cleanup, I would say 95% of the campers lived on the Department of State Lands, the state land. And there was probably, I think they counted right before the cleanup, I can't remember if it was 52 or 62 people living out there. So it was quite a bit. So most of those people did get moved out, but a few of them moved to the federal side, and they're still living out there.
So those people that were in the news,
Yes.
those campers
Mhm.
that got flushed out with the flood,
Mhm.
were they on the state side or the federal side or on
Most of them that got washed out were on the state side. So essentially, the Department of State Lands controls the waterways, which goes all the way up to the high water mark. So theoretically, the floodplain should belong to the state. Most of those people were on state land. So there are campers on the federal side right now. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on with the federal government. It doesn't seem like it's a high priority for them to get those camps cleared out. So though we take complaints about that, there's nothing I can do about those camps. When we go out and enforce state law, but I can't move those camps off of there.
When you get those complaints, do you pass that along to the feds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have contacts with all the agencies out here, and I'll send them messages or emails saying, hey, we got another complaint. 1,000 acres, maybe not every time because they get a little repetitive. We get complaints about that pretty routinely. And they're aware the camps are out there, so I don't bug them about it too much unless something new develops.
I happen to have a student who, spent time down there, and even after the cleanup, he said, oh, no, I've been going down there, I stay sometimes still.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I think is really frightening.
Yeah.
There's been other reports done that's beyond, the scope of this, but it's just like him saying, I was like, no, I thought it got cleaned up. Clearly.
Yeah, it's an ongoing battle, and that's the thing is it's never going to be clean and stay clean. It's going to be a constant battle. Until you really draw in the community to start using an area a lot, people are going to end up moving there. One of the issues is homelessness is clearly not going away, and so there does come a point where we have to try and balance. People are going to be out here. They're going to be camping. To what's the purposes of us going out there and moving them? So if somebody is causing a livability issue, they're in plain sight, maybe they're committing crimes, yes, that camp needs to be dealt with. Occasionally we come across a camp that is well hidden, way off the beaten path. They're not expanding, they're not littering, they're not covering the area with disgusting debris, and they're not committing crimes. We're gonna probably just advocate for hey, what would be the purpose of us trying to move this person? Ultimately, the controller of the land gets to decide that, but I try and encourage those agencies to what is the purpose of moving them other than you just don't want them there? Are they causing an issue? Because at some point they're just going to move around East County, and it could end up causing livability issues for people. I'm sure everybody's seen the white van out on Marine Drive.
Yes.
It's been there for a long time. So when we were talking, he was getting bounced back and forth between Fairview and Troutdale a lot. And he was living in or staying in residential areas. Well, we finally got him out there, and the city says, hey, go move him. And we're but why? Nobody recreates there, nobody lives there, there's no businesses. So I get we don't necessarily want him living there, but the alternative is he's gonna go back into the residential areas.
And I thought myself, it was he was just there.
Mhm.
It was not a problem or
Yeah.
anything. So I really appreciate that stance. I don't know him, but I know
Yeah.
the van, and I'm sometimes you see that escalating, and you're now
Yes.
it's an issue, but it feels maybe a year even or so, and he's been there.
At least, yeah.
And just, that's his place.
Yeah, and he usually keeps it up against the brush.
Yeah.
Versus those 4 or 5 other cars that showed up, they unpacked and spread out trash and filth everywhere, and that's more hey, we have to deal with this.
in a situation like his, is that where he wants to be?
Yes. Yeah, he's been offered all kinds of services and outreach that is where he wants to be.
He doesn't work. Or
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Unfortunately, a lot of people say no. And they say no, everybody says no until you finally say yes, but it usually takes a long time for them to get to that point. We have had, a handful of success stories where people have finally come to us, or when we go into their camp, they say, okay, I'm done with this, today's the day. We've gotten a few into housing programs and job programs. Some have been successful, some have not. Some have been housed for a year or two, and then they they end up falling back into homelessness.
Are they, a lot of them, or most of them, are drug addicted?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You'd say the majority of them? or-
Yes. Yeah, the vast majority of people that I encounter have addiction issues or had addiction issues. Yeah. And obviously, yeah, mental health treatment's tough to get in this county.
I realize things have changed from when I was homeless. We got more mental issues to deal with, more drug issues to deal with than what we were experiencing at that time. But one thing that I'm really curious about is how is waste handled these days? So like, case in point, when I was in the military, we had guidelines of, you know, where we were to put our human waste as opposed to where our water supply was, and just because it was drilled into us that disease would take us out quicker than the enemy would.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were homeless, my father was ex-military, so he also made sure we followed those rules. But what are they doing here? Because if you're drugged out, you're probably not thinking about stuff like that.
Right. You do occasionally, we'll go into camps where they have like clear like bathrooms set up with pits dug into the ground, and then there's other ones where there's human feces on the trails and around the tent.
Yeah.
So it does depend on the situation.
And do we make sure that that human waste is away from water supplies?
We do the best we can to keep people camping away from water, but there's no specific statute that we can use to say, hey, you're camping within 200 feet of water. Again, it's going to be that property controller. Is Metro allowing it? Is DSL allowing it, et cetera?
I know that I can't let my cattle go near the rivers.
Right.
The fence house, so they can't get near it.
Mm-hmm.
So the cattle don't.
Yeah.
Have it go to the river.
Right.
So there's some guidelines as far as that goes, but
Sure.
not from the law enforcement standpoint.
Yeah, there's not something I could go out and necessarily arrest somebody for, pooping next to the water. There's not a crime for that. Now, if an RV was intentionally dumping sewage into the river, which we've caught before, that's a little easier to articulate than, hey, because I am sure that there are housed people that have been down at the river and have used the bathroom. So there's a little bit of a difference between, hey, I use the bathroom in the woods versus I'm dumping an RV full of human waste.
So our camp didn't engage in crime,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm well aware that the other camps near us did, and we were trying to protect ourselves, and that's why we got all that. What do you do if they're living in a stolen car?
Oh, then we have to take that. Yeah, it would just be if it's their car. Say it's illegally parked, we might not tow it right. If it's a hazard, like it's blocking a road, we have to tow that car. But if it's just like illegally parked, I'm not going to tow that car right away. I'm going to say, hey guys, you gotta move, and give them a time period to move.
So you can't really force treatment at all, can you?
No. Diversion. Recently, our DA was on the news, KGW, talking about diversion. You could go back and watch that. I think they said 100 people accomplished diversion in 2025. But that is their supposed path to treatment. There are other outlets to treatment, and we have gotten people in touch with those. You go to detox, and then inpatient or outpatient treatment centers. There's various programs that will help them with that, but you gotta want to get out of addiction.
Yeah, my brother finally decided to do something. It took 8 years.
Oh man, it took my mom 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
how,
appreciate what you do. Thank you.
so how many, how many interactions do you think that you have in a month? I mean, is it like
That's a great
a
question.
daily thing?
In the city of Troutdale specifically, city of Troutdale is daily. Absolutely, yeah. There's camps in the city of Troutdale daily. There's a gentleman who's in Troutdale, now he's in Fairview, where he's just kind of a day camper, where he's setting up in front of people's businesses, under awnings, sleeping at night. So I'm interacting with him quite a bit, 'cause people get to their business in the morning and want him gone. But yeah, it's daily interactions in Troutdale.
I noticed, I was just reviewing all the police logs. Is that stuff that shows up on the police logs?
No, so what I don't go out and create a bunch of police logs every day, so most of my stats would not be on that. That's probably more of patrol stats that you're looking at?
I guess it's because it's calls for service.
It's
So
calls
if
for
you
service.
said somebody's calling and saying
Yeah.
somebody's sleeping,
Mhm.
it's a call for service.
Yeah, that would be a call for service. Yeah, if somebody's calling and I go to that, that would be on there. Most of what I do are emails we've received through from the community, and just going out and directly dealing with those, and or out driving around and seeing like, oh, this RV is going to be an issue. I'm just going to jump on that now.
Okay, I know that this isn't part of what you're doing, but it's like, because as we look at this book of police laws for each month,
Mhm.
I just was noticing that there's a lot of unwanted person,
Yes.
here, unwanted person, unwanted. And then there's some certain areas where they show up all the time. And so I just wondered, that's not, you don't go and interact with those people.
If
Or you know-
they are homeless, then I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I will take those unwanted calls if they're homeless. If it is just somebody else causing issues in a store, then I'm gonna let patrol deal with that.
Okay.
You did mention the trespass. Is that a legal trespass? Whereas if they come back, they are trespass already, so you don't have to go through that 4-day
Correct.
process again?
No, then they would go straight to jail.
Okay.
But yeah, trespassing people from public land is more complicated than private, right? You know, can't do it from a right of way. Yeah, there are ways we can trespass from public land. We just have to make sure we cover our bases. Usually it's if someone commits a crime.
It does seem that houselessness is like there's just so many paradigms of that, right? Like the legal aspect, mental health, there's like the trauma aspect, and all those pieces that play into a life that gets a person to this place. I was wondering what other community partners you work with that you feel are really helpful and.
Great question. So currently we work closely with Peer Company. It was formerly known as MHAAO, the Mental Health Association of Oregon. They've changed their name to Peer Company. Fourth Dimension out of Gresham, 4D. They're super helpful. Bayview Lakes in North Portland has been good partners. Though one of the issues with the outreach world is that the funding and the teams ebb and flow so much. So in the 4 years I've been on the team, I've probably had to work with or got to work with, probably 30 or 40 different outreach workers that have been assigned to East County. Because they'll come out here, they'll be assigned to East County for 4 months, 6 months, and then they'll be gone, and then a new person and a new group. And the funding gets moved around a lot. It's a very low income job, and so there's just a lot of turnover in that field. So it is tough to keep up, but it's just a lot of movement. We used to work with Cultivate Initiatives quite a bit, but not so much anymore. It just kind of ebbs and flows who's out here in East County. Most of the resources are in Portland.
Just a fleeting thought, is there any way, obviously it would take money, but, maybe the sheriff's office should consider hiring their own mental health worker that could be consistent.
That's a great idea. So we got a federal grant to hire a mental health clinician and a peer support specialist 4 years ago, and we currently have a contracted peer support specialist that's helping us out. We have not hired the mental health clinician. It's been very tough to get hired because one, it's a grant, it's an expiring job, so you have to get somebody to give up their full-time job to come here in hopes that it gets extended. Two is, much like family that I have, people in the outreach community or in that kind of, when I say mental health, I don't mean like the doctors, the physicians, but the lower level, they have lived experience. And so when you put someone with lived experience through a law enforcement background check, so they're going to be working in a law enforcement building, that's also been a complication, is to find that right fit. So we are currently trying to hire that still. Yeah.
Should be Frank, I can kind of say that.
Oh yeah, Frank, go ahead.
Hey. Sorry, I think I forgot my question. Officer Gerkman, thank you so much for coming in. This information, I see you at least once a week, I think, on occasion, and you get emails from me on my daily runs along the trail. So I'm in the Gauntlet area, I call it, where I'm observing a lot of stuff going on. And you guys have been my go-to for even when I interact with homeless. I basically ask, hey, we have the Hope team that can come out here and help you guys find services. Do you need help? And that type of response has been really, really great to go to. I do have some questions though, or just to clarify the jurisdiction. Do you cover the Sandy River Delta in your jurisdictional realm?
Yes, so we are the law enforcement agency for the Sandy River Delta. Just what I was referring to is when somebody wants somebody removed from, say, federal or state property, we need a representative from one of those agencies, and they're the one scheduling and paying for the cleanup. So they have to set it up, know where the property is going to be stored, pass that information along to us.
Right. And then you mentioned the complexities of dealing with Department of State Lands and Forest Service and is Port of Portland actually private property or public property?
I guess, I mean, I believe it's public property. It is, they get taxpayer money.
Because that would change the rules that we would be applying to each situation. So, yeah. I'll ask the port. I have the port's email, so I can ask them that.
The only private police department in the nation is Union Pacific. So Port of Portland was private. They would not have a police department.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Does that make sense? It's got to be publicly owned. Yeah.
So it has its own police department? I was unaware of that. I mean, the port, as far as the port.
Port of Portland Police.
Okay, cool. And then as far as, like you said, as far as like, how do we track this? I mean, statistically, I'm running up against that. How often do we have situations in what areas and how do we find the hotspots? How do we, keep track of all this stuff?
So we do have a stat app that we've used for several years. We're switching away from that to try and do some cost saving. The app was super expensive just for keeping track of some basic data. So we're trying to come up with an internal electronic system, but in the time in between, it's just notes on paper. But for the most part, I mean, me and my partner, we're out there every day doing it. I mean, we know where the problem places are, but I understand like that's hard to share. We can't plug into our brains.
Yeah, I like how you differentiated between the house lists that are, I mean, where you have different categories, it's complicated. I see, the transits, the summer, we see a huge influx. And then you see the RVs that I can vouch. I know we have at least 4, 5 around the city right now, and I could pretty much tell you where they're parked every day. But they do rotate, so and they don't leave a mess. And it's one of those you'd never know they were there if you weren't paying attention. So, but you have different levels. I mean, and then you have an RV that drives in, dumps all their stuff out, and you're like, what just happened? So. Yeah, it's been an interesting 2 years paying attention to what's going on the Chalk Chalk Trail. Also, I wanted to thank you for the help the other day with what looked like the hunter and the gentleman. Yeah, gentleman carrying the bow, and he's had a history out there, and I've had observations from people on the trail about. I didn't realize he had I think it was a pellet gun maybe, but he definitely had 2 bows and he's hunting squirrels out in the woods out there. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, so thanks for helping me out with that one. And you guys are always right there whenever we call, and that is a great resource to have in the area. Yeah, I have a ton of questions, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're putting in a long day as it is, I'm sure.
Do you need a hunting license to hunt squirrels?
You do, and you can't do it in the city limits.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a season for squirrels.
Seriously?
Yeah.
A
Things I
season?
learned
There's a
today.
season, yeah.
Is it squirrel season right?
I do not believe so, but I can't say with 100, I'm pretty sure it's like July, it's summer.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Can you live track them?
I don't know.
I would have to do some research.
Yeah.
I have a question
Yeah.
for you. Thank you for all you do. It's important.
Thank you.
I went to school for social services, so I know that one of the things that you need to do is provide services.
Yes,
You can't just push people around.
Right.
Because like you said,
Mhm.
they'll just end up somewhere you really don't want them.
Yep.
Is there something that the city of Troutdale could help provide that would keep the city clean and safe and helping you out in your job?
yeah, so I think your, Mike Weston, your city manager, does a great job advocating to the county for more resources out here. It's a real fine balance, cause I know all the cities are advocating for more funding. It doesn't seem like the joint office or the Department of Homeless Services, now it's called, is really giving up much money. You probably have all heard talks about Cook Plaza. It was gonna be an East County Homeless Resource Center. The city of Gresham, the residents, when they found out what it was gonna be, kind of weren't happy about it, went to the county commission, that was put on hold, and now they're looking for another location. It's one of those, you know, it would be a great resource. At the same time, traditionally, nobody wants it in their neighborhood, because it is going to attract people. So if there was a resource center in East County, it would be helpful, but I know that city managers are working on that. And the more outreach workers we have out here, the more helpful it is, the easier it is to get resources. Right now, it's pretty low. There's times that it's been high, you know, we've gotten a lot of attention. It just kind of depends on the attitude of the Department of Homeless Services and what the cities are getting out of them. So it is tough, but they are trying.
Do you ever, I mean, do you think the Hope team will ever expand and maybe include those outreach workers? And I mean, just be more than just the two of you?
Yeah, so
You know, where you have a real, you know, a team, a big
Right.
team of people that can.
Yeah, so there were talks of, you know, how do we grow the Hope team? And again, sometimes the background check stuff has complicated things. So right now, we were going to like hire a county peer support specialist, but then they decided we'll just contract it out through peer company. They're already an outreach group. It's a trained outreach worker. And so they thought it easier, instead of hiring an employee, to say, hey, we're gonna contract this person to partner with us and be on the Hope team. And so we are experimenting in different ways on how we grow that. And it is tough, because if we bring on an outreach worker, I would personally be concerned that the amount of resources they get access to becomes limited. Because once you start associating what you're doing with law enforcement, a lot of the shelters and other programs, they don't want us there. They don't want uniforms there. And so I would be worried that it could almost hinder them being too associated with law enforcement. Our current peer support specialist, I've told him, like, we'll go into camps with you if that's what you want, but it's really up to him, because it could affect his connection with people and getting them help. If they're worried, everything they're telling him comes to us.
Gotcha.
So it's a game, it's a delicate balance.
So one of the things that my wife and I were getting fearful of is when we house homeless in a shelter, and then crime and open drug use increases in that area. And we have no official responsibility when we're getting airfall. You've got to be here, man. How do we handle that?
I don't know. I mean, I wish I had more answers. I don't know. It is tough. I know, like,
Because they're usually property crimes.
yeah, a lot of property crimes. And like you said, drug use. It's a lot of open air drug use. And then trying to get somebody clean where their whole community, all their friends are drug users. It's tough to get them out of that. But like the city of Portland has had those long-term housing beds that they were designed to give people a place to stay long-term, and then they surrounded them with resources, and the idea was you were gonna find a path out of homelessness. Well, now they're finding that the people using the long-term beds aren't participating in the program. So they're just saying, hey, we're gonna start removing those people from that program. So I don't know how you incentivize somebody, because I mean, thank God I've never dealt with addiction or mental health, so it's really hard to imagine, you know, but you have to at some point decide you want to conquer that, because no one can make that decision for you. I mean, we can't force people into it right now.
Do we have addictive behaviors specialists or counselors on the payroll, or?
Not with the sheriff's office. Sometimes the outreach groups will have have people, but those people ebb and flow a lot. It is tough to get people that kind of treatment, especially mental health. Mental health is, I mean, we have arranged people to go to different clinics where they can see mental health professional and go see a doctor, and they'll tell us, okay, if I made it today, they'll say, tell the person it'll be at 3 o'clock on May 7th. You're like, okay, like, I'm gonna tell this person who's like trying to just get through today, right? They're high on something right now, they're just trying to survive today. I'm gonna tell them to put it in their planner book in 4 months to go see this doctor. Like,
there's psychologists that specialize in addictive behavior.
oh, absolutely. Getting them in is a tough task. And then we've even got people in, and then we showed up to their camp on the day, and we're like, we're taking you. And then they say, today I don't want to be sober. And that's the trick is, you know, I've had addiction in my family. You gotta capitalize on the moment. When they say, I'm ready. If you can't scoop them up and get them that help right then and there, tomorrow they might not want to go.
I kind of wonder if my life would have been different if instead of my father waiting for 8 years before he decided he was done, if somebody had intervened, kind of forced him to clean up.
Yeah, maybe, and we just don't have that capability right now. You know, there was a time, like with my family members, where it was, hey, you're choosing between incarceration or treatment, and if you fail treatment, the incarceration is your path.
Right.
You know, that's worked for some people, but that's not much of an option right now.
Right.
Yeah, Brian, you touched on like how can Troutdale help? I mean, we can do. I can't help but think of like the big three: education, engineering, and enforcement, and how we work on all three of those. And I think as a committee, we might be able to brainstorm some ideas there if we dig into some of our ordinances and see where we're at. What are your thoughts? We have a lot of green space, so we have like an out of sight, out of mind mentality that is slowly being pushed against. I think we're seeing more people using our green space now than we ever have before. So I think you're seeing more conflict there than we have in the past, because in the past, the houseless have basically been able to go and not be seen. So I think Thousand Acres is a great example of that. So would like a park ranger concept be applicable to helping you guys out? Would that be like a role that could be cooperative, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, the more boots on the ground is always helpful. Like, we work closely with Metro Park Rangers, state park rangers. I mean, the more people that are out there and can tell us, hey, there's a camp here, it's a problem, and this is why. I mean, it's more information that we get.
Yeah, I just see it. I mean, even in my daily runs, I'm developing relationships with some of the houseless, uh, especially in the summer. So I can see where that relationship could be beneficial, as you said, when you said if we catch them at the right time, and how important that is. Yeah, I think that's something we should explore for sure. And there are things we can do logistically, I think, in Troutdale that may lower like our trash pickup and the abandoned vehicles overnight and things like that. So I think we've got some work to do. Thank you.
Would they have the capability of protecting themselves? Because sometimes it gets kind of ugly out there.
Oh, it gets very ugly. Yeah, our homeless community is victimized at a really high rate.
Right.
You know,
That's why we were clustered together, right?
Yeah. Just the other day, I was talking to a lady who parked in the Home Depot parking lot. She says that she was sleeping in her car. It is clearly homeless, and somebody shot through one of her windows. I don't know if it was a bullet or a rock or what it was, but yeah, they're victimized at a high rate. They're victimized within the community. One of the things with Thousand Acres is, for a while, the first couple of years I was on the team, it was a pretty strict hierarchy out there. It was a very strict community. If you broke rules, there was consequences, including getting kicked out of the community. So that a lot of them, I mean, they don't want to be victimized either. They want to be able to keep their stuff. A lot of them end up with their stuff getting stolen, or they get assaulted. That's one of our goals too, is to make them comfortable to report crimes to us. There's been times we've been walking through Thousand Acres and somebody, like it's like, hey, come here, and they whisper to us about like a child abuse or sex abuse or something like that they might not have normally been comfortable telling law enforcement.
So it seems like even if you have park rangers, you want them to be law enforcement trained.
Yeah, and if you had somebody like that was building those bridges, it's tough because you can't just take a strict enforcement, angle to those interactions, because then you don't get that comfortability and that kind of relationship building that you end up using later. Like my time on the Hope team, we've never had to, I'm making sure, we've never had to arrest somebody for refusing to leave the camp. Like, we've been able to get that compliance for the most part because they already know us.
Yeah, you can't teach that necessarily, you have to have an individual.
Yeah, and it's patience and taking time. It took a few years for me to kind of get the hang of it, to where it's like, okay, I know these people, they know me, we call each other by first names. It doesn't have to be this like official, hello citizen, hello officer.
Building rapport.
It's building rapport, it's just treating people like people. And it's super helpful. You guys see the RV that was down in the 1,000 Acres parking lot last month that was causing luster. So I gave that lady my number. She was texting me every day with updates because I was trying to get her out of there, but trying to work with her. And so we just try and personalize it.
So remind me again, what's the whole team, the two of you, cover what area of Oklahoma?
So it's all of Multnomah County minus Portland and Gresham. So we don't go into the city of Portland, outside of a few exceptions. If something is affecting the courthouse, sometimes the sheriff will ask us to go down there, county-owned properties. But largely, we don't go into Gresham, we don't go into Portland. I tell you, we spend most of our time in Troutdale. Troutdale has not a high homeless population, but it's active enough. It's our highest populated contract city, and with the businesses, it's got more businesses than our other cities. It's just, there are more homeless moving through the area. And the city's also very diligent. We get emails from Frank, from Joe Storgy, from Mike Weston pretty routinely. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah, and I can come back anytime you guys want. If you guys want to talk about a specific issue or camp or whatever it is you guys need.
I think that would be very informative if we had any periodic statistics, how many you're dealing with, or areas that are, I guess, because we're caring about public safety here, we just kind of want to be, if we should be more proactive, or something we should be looking, bringing awareness. And I know you're communicating with staff already, and like Weston already know what's going on, but I guess just we could be another site that might elevate something to the city council, saying we really need to do something about this. We need to put resources there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think have you guys heard of the point in time count?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a survey of the homeless population done every single year. I didn't participate in it this year. This is the first year I didn't. So I'm not sure what those numbers look like for Troutdale for this year, but I actually think it's in February. So the new one will be coming out here in a few months, and we can see what those numbers are.
So is that they have feet on the ground taking the survey out to the homeless?
It's a specific day where they go out. We do it at night. Hoping most people are in there.
And who's they or we?
It's everybody. It's across. It's a nationwide thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's Portland State University is kind of like the moderator of it, and it'll be hundreds and hundreds of.
But you do the count at night.
Yeah, traditionally it's at night, hoping that people aren't away from their tent, maybe at a shelter or a day use area. We want to contact them.
It's interesting because I've always heard the stat is they're not home at night because they're out doing crimes.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of depends. In my opinion, early morning hours are the best time to find somebody at their camp. They can be active at night, and then afternoons. It just kind of depends on who they are. Yeah, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of people moving around at night.
Are there any people who are working that are homeless down there that you know about?
Yeah, I know of a handful right off the top of my head that I know that working full-time, various reasons that they don't want to
Do
be.
they have children? Are kids involved with any?
No, not in those cases. Occasionally we've come across homeless families. There's usually more resources for them. It's usually a little easier to get a family into housing. But yeah, I've had people tell me like, I work and I don't want to have the rules of living in an apartment. Or I've had people also say like, I could work, but I don't want a boss telling me what to do all day. I don't want a landlord telling me how to live. So it can be sometimes they don't want to conform to rules.
We were oftentimes out around 3 a.m. just because it was just so freaking cold.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so you have to move around.
Yeah, this time of year is very cold out there. We try and tell people who aren't familiar with East County how cold it gets, because I mean we always get an ice storm at least once a year.
And wish I had cold and wet.
Yes, yeah, and it is rough. Summertime, East County is a great place to be, which is why our population spikes. I know 1,000 acres would at times get up to maybe close to 100 people living out there in the summertime. And then wintertime, you'd see it drop to maybe 30 to 40. We'll see what happens. This summer will be completely different since DSL is not allowing camping. So we'll see where they go. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your insight.
Yeah, anytime.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, oh, my thumb drive.
So I'm trying to turn this thing on, let's stop.
Yeah, right.
I can't get out.
You-
Okay, come on.
Just give them thumbs up.
I'll just pull it out, I'm just gonna say I'm.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a nice detail, it's good.
Yes,
Great.
that was, yeah, very informative. Okay. Okay, so let's see, we move on to item number 6, the review of local law enforcement reports. Sarah emailed them all to you, and
I can't find mine in the email, sorry.
yeah.
I just have the
But,
dashboard.
and we'll, I picked mine up, we can have them, it was just a miscommunication, so we don't have them actually here tonight to talk about that. I mean, we can talk about it if you guys can pull them up online and you have any things you want to ask Nick, if you can, but if not, can any of you guys just
No, I don't.
I mean,
I couldn't find it, my email's a hot mess right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious if there's been any update on a different way of looking at those numbers, because I know we had talked about, I think, the last meeting, just being able to look at them. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think we were gonna look at it through the, dashboard.
Okay.
So let's do this first. Let's ask Nick if there's anything from November and December he wants to talk to us about.
Yes.
And then we'll go on. How's that sound, Nick? You there?
I love that, I can't ask any questions.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Nick.
Yes.
I can't think of anything drastically that stands out in the last 2 months. We did have a SWAT call out right behind the sheriff's office about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. It was a domestic violence deal where the victim had been assaulted multiple times from the same person. They ended up doing a SWAT call out on the house because the suspect was inside the house and was armed with a firearm. And he came out willingly without any problems, and they took him into custody. And then our detectives ended up wrapping up that issue. I don't know what the status of that is. Other than that, I can't think of anything significant that has come up. 2 days ago, I made a traffic stop out of Motel 6 and arrested a guy who had multiple warrants for armed carjackings out of Portland. And he went to jail, and he had a bunch of weapons charges and stolen vehicle charges and the armed carjacking charges.
Nice.
Right, yeah. Well, scary as in our neighborhood, but okay.
Other than that, I can't. It's been relatively slow the last, during Thanksgiving, Christmas time. typically if something significant happens when I'm not there, usually swing shift or night shift will inform me about it, and I haven't heard anything in the last several weeks.
Okay, that's good considering the holidays. I would think that unfortunately there'd probably be a lot of shoplifting. It'd be great if there wasn't.
Yeah, we had a lot of that, but most of it was in Fairview and in Wood Village between the Walmart and Target.
Okay.
Other than those two locations, we didn't really have a whole lot in Troutdale other than just our typical stuff we deal with.
Sure.
Okay, Nick, I'm gonna ask you, because when I was reviewing both sets of logs, call stuff, I had never realized it was on there before, so I don't know if it's new, but it actually, 3 different times, there was a death investigation.
Yeah, those will show. We don't get a lot of those calls. Typically, what those are is somebody dies of natural causes, and if somebody dies of natural causes in a house, law enforcement gets called because we have to do a law enforcement investigation to make sure there's no foul play or anything suspicious about it, to where we have to call our detectives and the DA and the medical examiner to come out to the scene to determine that the person was not murdered. But that's what that is.
Okay, well, because on 2 of them, I think it was like an hour and a half. The other one was maybe about 3 hours on scene. Is that?
Yeah, you depending on what's going on, when you go to those calls, you show up, you do your investigation, you call the medical examiner, and sometimes the medical examiner will come out, sometimes they don't, depending on the circumstances of it. And then you're also arranging the TIP volunteers, the trauma intervention specialists, to come out to the location. So you'll stay on the call for a while until all of that stuff is wrapped up and other resources get to the location. Then you'll clear from the call.
Okay, so it's even if it's natural causes that happens?
Yes.
Unless they're in hospice. That's why a lot of families use hospice, because then at end of life, all these things have been planned out, and we contact the medical examiner who then releases the body.
So what happens is we go out to the scene, we determine whether there's anything suspicious or not, which 99% of these are not suspicious. And then we contact a medical examiner, tell them what is going on. And the majority of the time, the medical examiner does not come out based on the information that we give them. But if we see something that's suspicious or something just doesn't seem right, they'll come out and they'll collect the body there at the location, and they do whatever they do to determine there was no foul play.
Okay.
And the medical examiner is always called on those calls because until the medical examiner releases the body to the family, the body is technically in custody between the medical examiner and the DA's office to ensure there's no suspicious activity going on.
Okay. Okay, another question I had, and I can't cite a date right now. It might have been the 31st of December, and it might not even have been in Troutdale, yet it said it was in Troutdale. I think it was on Facebook. It was a car overturned in the creek, and it was up by Division and Troutdale Road.
That would not be in Troutdale, but I did hear about that from a tow truck driver. It was a crash that happened out there, and they had to pull the car out of the swampy area up there.
Okay, I was just checking on that.
Other than that, I don't know anything specific about it. Just one of the tow truck drivers had told me they had to pull one out.
Okay, and then I have one more thing I want to ask, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, so if it's not, Chair, you will tell me so. What happens when there is a dog on the loose somewhere and there is no availability when you call the pound or you call the county and whatever you're supposed to call that agency, and there is nobody there at that time? Who do you call?
Good question. We get the calls, and if we're able to go out there and capture the dog, we'll take it down to the animal control, and because we have a 24-hour key card to get into the building. If we are able to catch the dog, we'll put it inside of a kennel and leave our business card with the case number, And if we are unable to catch the dog or the situation is unsafe, say if it's running the freeway, we're not going to put ourselves in danger for it.
Okay, I'm gonna give this scenario. Some people running on, the historic Columbia River Highway, just, I don't know, south of the Troutdale Bridge a ways, and maybe close to the old Tad's Chicken and Dumplings, a dog running on, with no owner or going across the road. They end up in Troutdale and wave down a sheriff, and the sheriff says, well, what do you want me to do about it? And so there was complaints to me, you're on public safety, how come they didn't do something about it? And they had already called and found that the other place was closed and wouldn't open until 11. And I said, I don't know, I guess I gotta find out because I'm not sure. And I believe that was on the 31st of December, and on the 2nd of December, it was posted that the dog was, I guess, sort of found and in the shelter. So it was obviously out for a couple of days.
You mean January 2nd?
January 2nd, sorry. So December 31st, yeah, 2 days later, and then, so then that was just posted. So, so it really is something maybe normally that you guys would take care of.
It depends. If it's, like I said, if it's running around in a highly trafficked area, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to chase it around in traffic. I'm not going to put myself in danger. And a lot of other deputies will not do that either.
Okay, well, I was thinking more for the safety of, you know, some car that's busting along on the old highway and possibly the dog darts off and they end up in the river because they went to swerve to miss the dog or something, so. But yeah, okay, all right, thanks.
Does anybody else have questions about anything that's on the lawn? Okay, thanks, Nick. Okay, so, let's go on to number 7, which is, that's next. I don't know if we have anything, you guys, we didn't put any focus for the deputy, for November since we don't have our law enforcement person. Okay, does anyone have anything that we should be focusing on or asking Nick to focus on this next month?
Did you get this in the packet?
Yeah, that's in the back.
Isn't that what that's about?
That's what that's about.
Yeah.
That's what that item is about.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
From a standpoint of public safety, have you already discussed like some of the traffic issues or some of the, like with the intersection there, at Buxton? I know people run that stop sign all the time because the light doesn't stop, and pedestrians have almost been hit, so I'm just curious, are there other, besides just crime, like crime reports, is there other things like with traffic, for improving safety or, you know, things of that nature, not just specifically crime? Because this is my first time attending, so I was just curious.
If you're wondering, I believe Nick has actually sat at that spot at Buxton and the old highway.
Mhm.
I think he'd tell you, he's tried to do a detail there before. Or Nick, is that right? Didn't you tell us before you have?
Yeah, when I sit there, it is literally impossible to get anybody to see anybody failing to obey that traffic control device. One, there's not any good spots to sit, and two, pretty much everybody can see you when you're down there. And I've spent several hours down there, and every time I'm sitting there, nobody runs that stop sign. The only time I've ever seen them run that stop sign is if I'm coming down Buxton, going down towards Columbia River Highway, and they don't see me, and they're on Columbia River Highway, and they blow through the sign. But that's only happened a handful of times.
Okay. So what other, like for equity for the community, for safety for the community, what are some other agenda items that you guys have reviewed or discussed? And just out of curiosity.
We used to have the fire department report out to us, but in the very early years.
I was gonna say, they've only come and given it to us once. We never get an update, but I know that
Okay.
Ray told me that he gets it quarterly and he was going to always send it to me, but
Okay.
he never.
For like the fire statistics, you mean?
Yeah, fire statistics, we would get them, he would meet with the fire chief in Gresham and get those statistics. And so, actually, after I met with him and talked to him, he said he would, I'll be meeting with him soon and send it, but I believe we only got it once, so. So that's,
You can get.
that would be good to go back and see if Mike is getting that he would give us an update.
Is there any other information that you think would be helpful for this committee to discuss that I might be able to pass on? Like fire stats, is there any other pieces of information that might be helpful?
Can we
I'm
report out
sorry.
next time? Because I think it's great.
Yeah,
Are you, I don't know who you are.
My apologies, I'm Kimberly Carl. I work with the city of Troutdale, I'm going to be the staff liaison for this meeting. Today I'm primarily just observing.
Okay.
I apologize, you don't have the crime reports because I didn't realize
Oh.
that was my responsibility to print those. I thought Sarah had already printed those for you, so my apologies there. Just moving forward, I'm not sure, I'm inquiring how else I can help. What other topics can I help assist with? What other information would you, as a committee, like that I might be able to help you put on the agenda to discuss?
Okay.
So just things to think of.
Okay.
I think Twyla's right when she says she might need time to think about it. I think this monthly book that we have been getting for the last 8 months, that we are said we are going to figure out a way to slim down the paper itself. We don't cut down a tree every time. And we talked last time about ways we could facilitate getting information in either more visual reports, because I know for me, like seeing heat maps on some stuff, specifics would be beneficial. We talked also last time about we get calls, but calls aren't necessarily the same as the actually whatever
Police
happens or something.
reports.
So somebody could make a call saying, hey, there's something suspicious, and the officer shows up and they find them. So it's a call, but there's never something beyond that, whatever it is. I don't totally understand the whole layers of it. But so for us to be able to respond, are we seeing a lot of vandalism in an area? Is there something we could do as a committee that make a recommendation or something like that? So if we could figure out some of the information, what we're getting and digesting it, to maybe like brainstorm ideas of, ways that we could even reach out to the community or something like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna hijack this because I think that's what we are trying to do ourselves as this committee, is we are trying to get a handle on the information that we're getting. Is it in a form that we can digest? Can we figure out what is our focus? I mean, we're trying to see if there are problems. Nobody comes and testifies to tell us really much of anything, the fireworks, I mean, we've heard a little bit of stuff, but we're trying to disseminate from this information that we get, and we had someone last month, a data analyst from the sheriff's office who's super helpful, clarified a whole bunch of stuff, but then we had to look, we've since now looked at the dashboard, and Twyla's gonna do another demo to show us a little bit of stuff, but we're trying to disseminate with all this stuff, see something so we could take action that would be helpful to the city. Is there a problem? Or is there no problem? I feel like there probably is stuff that we just aren't seeing through this because it's just this ream of information. But now we understand a little bit more about it, and so I don't think that I think we're still grappling with this, but hopefully we can.
And prior to this, we as a committee said, hey, we need to put out a survey to the public here in Troutdale, the citizenry, and find out what they have concerns about so that we could address that. So we did get some feedback in a survey that we did, and some of the things that they were expressing concern over to deal with like, either vandalism in areas or the homeless communities.
Speeding and running stop signs.
Yeah.
Heard about that.
Yeah.
Or a lack of seeing the sheriff anywhere, and that bothered them, or, anyway, and there was some that they just gave nice little sweet comments, like they like the smell or something like that.
That was my bad.
Twyla.
I was just thinking, this is like one source of data,
Yeah.
this report. I also wonder, one thing that we have not looked into before is kind of like the livability thing. So it'd be really great to get some data from code compliance, like what are the things that people are putting into that?
Sure.
And then I know also, at least when Ray was the city manager, there was a lot of people from the community that would just call Ray and say, hey, this is going on. So I also wonder if they called the new city manager, and if there's maybe trends or things he wanted us to know about that we could work on too.
And them coming and testifying to us would be lovely too. We need to feel needed.
That's right. Okay, go ahead, Rich.
It seems like I did see the fire reports more often as a counselor. However, it seems like this committee is probably more attentive to those kind of details. And the fire reports, from memory, they were more medical calls than they were actual fires. I'm not complaining about that, because you want your fire department to be more preventative than reactive. And it just tells me they're doing their job. So I'm fine with 3 fires. But just remembering that this group does have an interest in that.
Okay, so, let's,
Since you were asking about the detailed focus stuff, maybe Nick has some suggestions since he's out there in beat.
well, he's doing it. He's the one that would be doing it.
So Nick, if I went back to these police call logs, and then I see something, sometimes it says detail, and it might be just for a little bit of time or something like that. Is that you doing something special? Well, not you per se, but you know what I mean? Is that somebody doing something special for a short time, or is that, what does that mean, I guess?
When you have a detail incident, it's all it is like if you're at a community event, or like if we're working the Edgefield concerts in the summertime, we put ourselves out on a detail. They're very benign calls. They're not. It just shows that you're out on basically a community type related event.
Okay. Well, I did notice one night, the sheriff was sitting on a street on the east side of 257th, between Stark and, let's say, Cherry Park or Hensley or something. And I was thinking maybe it was trying to catch speeders. Were you guys trying to do anything there at some point?
When was this?
I'm gonna say I think it was November, might have been around Thanksgiving.
So, well, Cherry Park doesn't run into Stark, so I'm trying to figure out where it's at.
No, on 257, between Stark and, let's say, Cherry Park or Hensley or whatever. So just that distance from Stark heading north on 257. And I was driving down, I was like, oh, hey, there's somebody just sitting off there, and like, I wasn't sure if there was like some type of a traffic trying to catch speeders.
It could have been that. I don't know, but it very well could have been that.
I didn't know if you guys had noticed something and you guys were trying to set something out there at some point, but.
No, sometimes if we get like a traffic complaint, you'll see guys, they'll put themselves out on an XP or a detail in that location where we have the complaint, and they'll sit there. That way it's documented that we sat there for X amount of minutes or time and just observe what's going on. And but that's probably what that was.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, I'm still here. I had a question for Nick. Last meeting, I did I was just doing a rough count of the unwanted individual, suspicious person, vehicle, and then camping showed up recently too. So I just want to make sure I got the definitions right. What does it mean by unwanted individual?
That's just somebody, a location that somebody wants removed from their property. Whether it's
Um,
a whether it's a trespassing issue or you have a family member that shows up at your house and they want them removed from their location.
uh-huh.
It's kind of it can mean a lot of different things, but usually it's like if someone shows up at your house, you don't want them there, or like a trespassing issue inside of a store or business.
Yeah, because I saw the addresses corresponded to a lot of our Hope Team uh, areas. So that's why I was wondering if the two are related at all.
They could be. I'd have to look at the calls to see exactly what they are.
Okay. Because there were 137 of those over the course of 2 months for the unwanted individual. And then the suspicious person was 133. And I know our survey looked at the survey that we did recently looked at the impact of homelessness, and that was a concern. And I wonder if those are related in any way. And if so, are we tracking it?
A suspicious person versus an unwanted person, they're two separate
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Um, Usually, a lot of times, you'll see a suspicious circumstance, person type call. A lot of those are self-initiated by deputies. Like
Okay.
if they see a car sitting behind a business at 10 o'clock at night, that okay, well the business is closed. Why is this car sitting back here with three people in the car? They'll get out and
Got it.
contact it. Sometimes we will get those calls that come in and they're dispatched as a suspicious person or vehicle, but I'd say probably I would say probably close to 70% of the suspicious type calls are self-initiated calls. The
Hmm.
unwanted calls, those are probably 90 to 95% dispatched because
Yep.
somebody's calling in and they want somebody removed from their location.
That's good to know because that helps with trying to understand how you guys are responding to the situations. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so like sometimes I'll go into the Plaid Pantry down there on 257 and Columbia River Highway,
Yep.
and the clerk in there will say, "Hey, this guy's been sitting out here on the side of the building. I want him removed." So I'll put myself out on a unwanted call. So I'm essentially generating that call because they
Hmm.
just didn't call it in. So it'd be considered like a self-initiation deal.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
we've had that case with people sleeping outside of businesses, right? Where the business has called you and
yes, that's the most commonly. Sometimes they'll dispatch it as a camping issue, but most of the time it's an unwanted.
yeah. So I'm seeing where the lines kind of blur here, but at the same time, yeah. So okay, that helps with me.
Usually the camp related issues, most of those are probably self-initiated. We put ourselves out like, hey, show me out at 257 Columbia River Highway with a camping issue, and it'll be generated as a camping issue.
Cool. Yeah, I honestly, it's the first time I've seen camping pop up since I've been looking at the reports. My other question was concerning Stark and 257th and the total destruction of that bus stop. And then I'm seeing an increase of it just seems like the Safeway parking area is just getting yeah, you guys seeing more stuff going on in that area?
No, because they don't call us.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
take care of it internally.
they call us when there's stuff going on inside the store, but a lot of times when there's stuff out in the parking lot, they don't call us.
Huh.
Um, Deputies will find stuff going on out there, when they're just driving through the lot. But I don't know what it is about that bus stop there, but that thing gets hit right there at 257th and Stark,
I
and
don't think
then
it's ever had off three sides ever.
no, I
Yeah.
drive by it regularly when I'm on my way into work, and I'm like, oh, somebody broke the windows out of it again.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I mean yeah, I'm not sure where to go with that. But I'm seeing more along, it seems like we're seeing more of that and then it's migrating to Home Depot and yeah,
Yeah,
that whole area.
and TriMet does not report that to us. They just fix it. They don't tell us anything.
Mhm.
They just deal with it. So we don't capture that data most of the time.
Okay.
Um, I don't know why they don't report that. I think to them they probably just say, okay, call the glass crew and have them come out here and fix the bus stop again. But I don't know what it is about those bus stops, but that one and the one that's like 3 or 4 blocks down the road on Stark,
On
um,
Stark, yep.
they break the windows out of them all the time, and the one in front of the outlet mall.
Yeah. And then on occasion, the one on Halsey at the split right there,
Yes,
257th and Halsey.
I've seen that one too, and I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. If it's the same person doing it over and over, I would assume it probably is because it's just kind of ironic that it
Yeah.
happens so often.
Maybe I might pass that on to Brian, because maybe he has some intel on that that
I
might
do
help.
know that when it is happening, it is a night shift issue when it's happening because I usually come in the morning and then I see it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to take too much of your time. That helps out immensely. Thank you very much. And then Kimberly, you're in the room, yeah?
Yes,
Hey, so you're the new staff for the committee? You're our staff representative, or you said liaison?
I'm your, for lack of a better word, I'm your staff representative, for the time being. And I'm very new. I have not been a staff representative to any committee for the city. So I'm still navigating what my tasks and role is. And
Okay.
since I did make the mistake of not getting you the crime reports printed, I was just trying to ascertain what other things you're would like on the agenda for future, or maybe you've already discussed those things. I haven't.
We decide the agenda later on in the meeting, I mean, we as a committee
Thank you.
decide.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been with us.
Yeah, I think that was basically from what I'm hearing on the discussion, was you're asking us for an agenda or basically action items that we're working on currently. Did I get that right?
I may be overstepping my role. I was just making suggestions and I'm ascertaining if you discussed those things before.
Yeah,
And it
Okay.
is not, maybe that's your role solely for the agenda. I was just giving input basically.
I totally appreciate it that we have some help, there's so much. But I think that she's trying to make sure that we know what we always need to have. The law enforcement.
Yeah, the other piece was, I don't know what you've requested in the past. I don't know what you don't want. I don't know what you do want, like asking Mike if he's getting calls from community members like Ray did, or getting fire stat reports. Because the only thing I was told, I didn't know I was supposed to print them. The only thing we talked about was the crime reports. So I didn't know if that was more your sole focus or if there was other things I could get for you.
I think that.
Yeah. I know. I've tried to avoid calling Mike. I know, as a new city manager, I know he's busy, so I've backed off on that. But I know Ray was like my go-to, as Lila was saying. It's like if we had an issue, he really was the first line of defense, I guess you could say. So we put him in some awkward spots, I'm sure. Thank you.
I think that, the law enforcement is the only report that we've pretty consistently got. And we've asked, from the time I got on the committee, the other chair, we were asking for fire information, medical information, getting statistics. I mean, where do we stand as a city? I mean, are we meeting goals as far as time and response? So if that sort of stuff is available, we love it. We don't know anything other than quarterly, we learned, in the last year that this, we could find out about fire. So, yeah, that would be great. Okay, I'm a little worried about the time, so we're gonna keep jumping on here, going on to number 7. Sparlow's gonna show us, remember 2 months ago, guys, we looked at the dashboard, and then we were trying to tie it to the reports, law enforcement reports. So take it away, Twyla. She's gonna try to show us where she's been.
I think I shared, I live in the Teams world all day, so everything is in a little different place. Here. So what I thought we could do is just look at the crime dashboard again with the heat maps. with the information that we learned from talking with our Multnomah County data analyst on why that thick report on that one page, those numbers don't line up. And we were like, well, is the data good then? And he kindly explained to us that the reason those numbers are gonna differ is that not every single thing like we see there then is on this report. So this is a nice snapshot, and let me make sure I have us actually, I think I have us in all, so I'm gonna take us to Troutdale, and so we can really kind of go in here and see. And then from here, we can see we have a list of all of our crime reports on the right-hand side. And if we want to filter these down and look into specific categories, we can do that over here. So just for fun, let's go into person. And with that, you can see we have 2 associated reports here. A simple and an aggravated assault. And
Do a bigger date range.
oh, I thought I had changed it, must have reset itself. I'll do just the month of December. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sure.
So there was a few more assaults than that in the month, and you can see on the map, once you start drilling down, there are 2 specific areas, and I'm sure Nick is not surprised by this at all, that stand out when looking at these maps. I was playing a bit with them last night, and it is kind of that Columbia River Highway there, and then that Stark Street, and I think that's where that big apartment building is there, that kind of area over there, and then the Safeway parking lot also. So
I'm not sure what apartments you're talking about. Are they?
Troutdale Terrace up to.
I was thinking the ones that are down here a little bit more. There's a lot of, there are some kind of apartments that run through this area.
On Stark Street?
Yeah, but back up.
Those are going to be the Hewitt townhome condos.
Oh, townhomes, condos that back up behind the gas station. Is that what you're talking
Yes, yes, back there,
about?
yes.
Yes, okay.
Oh, that's on the other side, okay. I was on that, okay.
And I'm just gonna filter down here a little bit.
Can I ask Nick a question? Do you know how did those districts or areas get decided? Because they don't have great breaking lines, you know what I mean?
That I have no idea how they determined that.
Can you?
I know that the 60 district is usually cut off right around Troutdale Road and Buxton area, and then everything south of that is the 70 district.
So perhaps we have, on this map, we have more districts than.
Yeah, so the old, and I'm not sure how they determined this, but the old maps that we have, they had 3 districts on them. And it was like, I think 201, 202, and 203 back when we had our old Troutdale numbers. Right now we have a Paul, 5 Paul 6-1, 5 Paul 6-2, 5 Paul 6-3, and then 7-1, 7-2, and 7-3 for the southern districts. As far as that 3rd district to the east that's on our old maps that we have, I'm not sure how they determined a 3rd district over there, but it was on the old maps. But we only do have 2 districts right now.
And so when you click on them, you can like drill down which one happened where exactly. What did you want me to double click on?
No, that's what I was trying to read when yeah, perfect.
So these are, looks like ones, like one happened in this area. and these got marked as heat because there's a couple over here, so there was a higher prevalence happening in that area.
Okay, and that was just called person crime, it wasn't down to a specific thing?
So those were person crimes, and then we could also drill down for if we wanted more specificity, if we were looking,
Okay, do drug, narcotic offenses. Oh, you know what you saw up there, say burglary, that's good.
say what?
Burglary. There would be nothing, right? Okay, sorry.
But if you're worried about that, right, it's nice, you can quickly get a glance at what's happening in that area, in that date range. So let's move from person to property, because that's probably where we'd find the burglaries. And for there, it looks like for that time frame for December, we had 3. And they're scattered about, so. Halsey, Clara. Did any of these ring a bell for you, Nick?
No, the burglaries kind of come and go. Um, Usually when we see like a pattern of like somebody who's burglarizing an area, you'll see several of them show up, typically within a small range of like a square mileage area. What I'm looking at, if I were to take a wild guess at it, it's not the same person doing it. It's probably 3 separate incidents.
Thank you.
Now, when you had, incidents like in I think it was 17 and 18 when we were chasing one of our serial burglars around in Troutdale. There was a lot of houses that were getting hit in a specific neighborhood, and we had a big spike in them, and we were able to kind of pinpoint the area that person was hitting. So we kind of were able to focus on that area, and we ended up finally catching them after several months. But, we were able to see a pattern. Like we've got, 10 burglaries in one neighborhood. So it's probably going to be the same person, which, we connected him to a couple of them, but I'm sure the other ones were involved with him too, but we couldn't prove it.
Hey, Twyla, go larceny.
Okay. Under property?
Yeah. That is 20, so I thought maybe it was.
But that's typical for the larceny right there. That's going to be your theft calls. The majority of the theft calls we get are usually along frontage road between the TA, Loves, some of the restaurants down there. That just seems like the area that kind of calls in most of the time down there.
So do you know, should the list of reported crimes that is on the right, that shows like this, it just says theft of a motor vehicle or whatever, she shows one. Should that line up with something on our log?
I don't know how this system works. Um, we don't get a lot of stolen vehicles out of Troutdale. You get a handful of them every month, it seems like, and they could be anywhere in the neighborhood. Those people that are stealing cars, they're not targeting specific areas. They just go into a neighborhood, they steal a car, they leave, and then they drive it around for typically 12 to 24 hours. Then they dump it somewhere, and then they go into another neighborhood and steal another one.
And I wonder too, for our exercise here, I am a big picture person, and so I really like looking at this kind of data. And it might be that we have kind of a hybrid for others who love like details and really getting into it. Maybe we do need that larger book. I'm not I'm not sure what the right answer is. I'm okay with anything.
I did my own research and I did one date range, just one date, and then I tried to find the things on the laws. And they don't match up. So I wonder what we're looking at. I don't feel like sometimes I can line some stuff up, sometimes I can't. I'm just like, are we two different sources of information? I thought we understood that the log had everything. And then
So one of the other things about this with the vehicle recoveries for stolen vehicles that we find, when we were chasing that person around that was stealing a bunch of stuff, burglarizing a bunch of properties, we were finding a bunch of stolen vehicles in a specific cul-de-sac and within about a 1 block radius of that cul-de-sac. So when we were finding multiple vehicles that were stolen down there, they would park them and dump them off, and then they would go steal another one, come back, park it, dump it there. What we're able to do is figure out, hey, this person's probably lives in the area, which they did. What we did me and a few deputies back then, we got out and started knocking on the doors of all the neighbors' houses, and we just asked the neighbors, "Have you seen anything suspicious going on out here?" And then we finally came. Most people told us no. We finally came across one neighbor, and he refused to give us his name or information or anything right there at the front yard of the house. And the only thing he did is he said, "Give me your phone number." He goes, "I'll call you when you leave." Okay, so I gave him my number. I left. 20 minutes later, he calls me and he says, "I think your problem's going to be at the next door neighbor's house." And long story short, that ended up being the problem, and we caught the guy.
Wow.
Okay, I just was gonna respond. So the images like this, although it shows heat, it's such like that kind of big area for me. It doesn't exactly get specific enough. So in a way, I would rather see dot-ish like things, a little bit more concentrated, closer to an area. So rather than, when it lights up a whole area, but Nick knows it's along, like the strip there, that's more informative when it's closer to that as opposed to this kind of bigger area it's lit up. I don't know if.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not sure how they do this on this system, because if you had dots, we could at least see, like, okay, you got 10 dots in this one cul-de-sac. So there's obviously something going on here versus these blocks that they have here, because that's several blocks in an area. So I'm not sure how they're doing that or why they're doing it the way they are. But again, I'm not a crime analysis specialist, so I'm not sure what system they're using. I do have a background in crime analysis, but every system is different. I would prefer one with dots because you can see it exactly where it's at.
And I think the gentleman last time had indicated they can't get too specific on the dot because they might give away a little bit too much information. And I'm okay with that because I feel like if you told me like the 2200 block or
And
something
that
like
is right up there in the right-hand corner. When you,
Yeah, it has that access.
but visually, I can't see it that way, except I have to read that and kind of determine where. So when I read the logs, I go, okay, where is that location? I look and I get roughly where it's at, and I'm like, oh, wow, like, that's in so-and-so's neighborhood, or, it's
So
like.
I'd have to ask him to see if he can provide me one with dots, because that would be helpful for me, because the way this one is set up, if we had a specific problem going on in like one specific neighborhood, the way these are blocked off does not necessarily help me unless I know exactly personally what's going on in the area.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
That's what I felt when I really looked at this. I'm just like, who determined these areas? These districts that they've drawn?
And looking back, when I'm talking about this burglary serial car thief that we dealt with several years ago, we kind of stepped into that by accident. We just kept finding vehicle after vehicle in one specific area that were stolen. And another deputy and I were like, whoever's doing this obviously lives in this area, because why would they keep dumping it right here in the same spot every single day? And we'd find 2 or 3 at a time in a day there. And then after doing multiple, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months of research on it, we were finally able to pinpoint it to the specific location where it was happening.
So I think
Good
even,
police work.
I think even with what Nick is indicating though, is that something with a little bit more dot generation might be helpful for him even fighting crime.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that, just because throughout my life, it's been surprising to me how much crime is done by so few people.
So what I can say is, after dealing with several of the DAs, the senior DAs, um, one of the main guys I work with on like high profile cases, he says, approximately 10% of the population commits 90% of the crime.
Yeah, that's about right.
And then the other 10%, or the other 90% commit the other 10% of the crime.
Okay, well,
So I could talk to Kevin Morelli, our crime analysis guy, to see if there's a way he can give me one with like dots on it. But I don't know what kind of system they're using, so I would have to reach out to him specifically and ask him for that.
I mentioned that because you get a lot of repeat visits, right?
yeah, I think that we'll be asking for this. But I guess I'm gonna have to ask him, because none of you guys have looked at this, but I literally, if you put in do a date range, a really small one, and then try to look and find those it says the 2700 block of something, and tie it to the log. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, so then I'm just kind of, well, how come, I think this on the log, it's an arrest and it's a theft, and how come it's not in the crime statistics? So I'm confused by that, I really am. So, I did spend a lot of hours looking at this, going, oh my gosh, okay, it's working. No, it's not working. So, I was trying to figure out how we were gonna rein in the log file, and I thought at first I would say, oh, well, maybe we can drop off the priority 6s and 7s. But sometimes those came up on the dashboard. So,
I was thinking at first, but based off maybe not, like when it was detail, each time I saw like detail, it seemed like there was nothing really that we were getting out of it in the report here. And I thought, oh, maybe that code doesn't matter. And then I also was thinking that,
I tried to get you guys the call types. That didn't happen. I guess I did try, but tried a number of times, but we didn't get those. But I went through and wrote down all the call types on 1 month's worth of stuff and count statistics. And I'm just like, and the priority level. And I'm just like, good golly, trying to come up with some rhyme or reason of what we could eliminate. But again, I can't consistently say that 6s and 7s for sure. A lot of times those probably aren't ones we care about. So I just felt like I'm just throwing my hands up in the air, and I'm not sure how we're going to do it.
I think also maybe what we should do is we think of the intent of what we are doing with this data, because being on this committee for so many years, we've never been like, oh, there's an issue there. We really rely on Nick to let us know. And this maybe if it's just more to inform us and keep an eye on. I don't know that it has to be perfect. Because looking at data all day, like it is never perfect and there's always something that says skew, but I have to look at like what I'm trying to get out of it and what my intent is, and is it good enough to inform me to do that job. And so I don't know if we take that approach and really figure out what we're trying to do with it, if that might help us.
I tend to look for trends, right? Because you have a relatively normal environment and then you start getting a peak somewhere. Well, that's usually because somebody just moved into the area that is one of those 10%, right?
Yeah.
Anybody have any suggestions?
kind of, I know we're beating the dead horse, I mean, I think that we need to get, information. I appreciate if we know that all of what we're looking at does match naturally with what has been, however those numbers are. I mean, we might not be looking at the same things. What is the thing? Some are calls and then some generate reports, and that's the difference in that next layer.
So this log, the book, has all the calls that they are called out on. But they only take and write reports on so many, because half of these are not worthy of a report to be written, okay?
So the dashboard
For whatever
only has
reason.
reports written. Does the dashboard only?
Yeah, all the ones on the dashboard are reports written.
So maybe I call because I think that my neighbor is smoking heroin, and it goes in as like drug use, and they get out there and he's smoking a cigarette. And so they don't write a report and he goes along his way. That would be a call for drug use, right? And then it would not though be on the other thing.
Right.
But what about if?
We've had several calls over the years where it comes in as a vice call, which categorizes like drugs, prostitution type stuff. People think that there are people smoking drugs, and we get there and it turns out it's a vape or a cigarette or nothing at all. But it's still categorized as a vice call, even though we clear it out as that it's, unfounded. But that's just the way it is.
Okay, say for example, I looked up on November 3rd on the dashboard, and it showed one theft of a motor vehicle, property crime, and it said 1,000 block of Southeast Freedom Road. I looked on the law, and I could find theft, cold case, assignment completed, so okay, that's not a report written. I can find a burglary, priority 7, for a different address, 1,000 block of historic Columbia River Highway, report written. It's not showing on the dashboard. I get another theft cold. That one also cleared, assignment completed for a different address, priority 6. Then I get the one that I believe matches the one that's reported, a theft cold, priority 7, for the 1,000 block of Southeast Freeman Road. A report was written. So that seems to match with what the dashboard says. But then there's also a domestic disturbance for priority 2. A report was written, no arrest, and that doesn't report on the statistics either. So there's one thing that shows on the dashboard that day, and I kind of think there probably should be 3 things going on, because there was 3 reports written. So
As far as that goes, I don't know how that's captured. That'd be a question for Kevin Morelli, who spoke to you guys last time we were in here. He's the one that's the expert on that. I don't know how that works between the dashboard versus the CAD history.
That's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to follow up with him, send him my examples, and go.
And he can answer all of that. I just don't know how to answer it, because I just don't know how it's captured.
See, my whole point was I wanted to feel extremely comfortable reading all this paper. We could just get this guy from the dashboard. So all the things, but I don't know. Go ahead.
That's the problem you have with these types of systems, where you're running 2 different systems and capturing 2 different forms of data. You're going to get 2 different types of results on different things. And I don't know why they do that, but it's just, it is what it is. And I wish it wasn't captured that way, but I don't know how to explain it, because I don't work in his position.
Dick, I have a question for you also. When it says assignment complete, could that go either way? Or does that mean that a report was generated or not? Or could it be in?
No, the only way you'll see a report generated if it's cleared with a frank F.
Okay.
Anytime you see an F, an A, or a B, Adam or Baker, Those will generally always have a report associated with them. As far as a J for clearance code with a John, that's like, we get called to a location and say there's a tree across the road and you clear it with a John once you're done with it.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Did those have those?
But the A and the B, just so I clarify it, the A and the B coding is an A is a felony arrest and a B for a baker is considered a cite in lieu. Like if somebody has a cite and release warrant or you cite and release them for a theft charge or, any kind of misdemeanor charge or even some felonies, that's considered like a citation in lieu of a physical arrest.
And what was the F you said?
That means there's always that means there's a report written just for
The other one?
whether there's an arrest. Well, anytime you have an arrest, it's going to be an A or a B. If you have an F on a report, that just means there's a report written, whether it's an information report or you wrote something up and referred it to the DA's office for review. Just in general, a report was written with an F.
That might be the clarification.
No, because two of those were J's and the other threes were F's.
Oh, no, the different types of reports. Does the F include every kind of report? Because he was saying there's.
She said that might be clarification.
Oh, okay, F's, okay. I was gonna say, I think I read into it as well. I think there's something that didn't. Orange. I don't know, something that was on the dashboard. Anyway, I looked at a number, I think I just need to talk to Kevin about some of these to get more clarification. But I didn't know if any of you guys had decided or had come to any conclusions about how you felt about the data and what was in it. If you had any thoughts, whatever.
So what I'm observing is if the data were useful enough for us, it would be useful to our officers.
Yeah.
If it's already useful to our officers, then what's the decoder, right? That's really what we're trying to figure out. So it seems like a worthwhile adventure.
So I think we should be able to get into a format that is more specific, like you were saying, where it's more pinpointed, just to help us. It'd be easier just to look at it and go, oh, okay, you know what I mean?
Right.
A lot quicker than what is provided on the online.
But there might be some things that with the heat, the more dots or something, it might be just like specific things, like we might not care. I don't know, there might be some stuff in here in the big report that we don't care about seeing some heat stuff on, even though maybe they can do it, maybe it doesn't matter. But, I think if there are vandalism reports, it would be nice if they were kind of pinpointed in an area and you knew it. When I read through the log, it was like, well, at the other end of my neighborhood, I can see that there was vandalism reported. I don't even know if I noticed any of it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a question when we're done with this for Nick, just.
I just want to do a time check for us too.
Okay, so can I just ask this, Nick, you can be thinking about it. The other thing I meant to ask on the December 23rd, it said threats school and it's open and under investigation.
Does it say anything else or is that it?
That's it, it's on the activity reporting IGA between MCSO and City of Troutdale for contract law enforcement service. And
Was it at Reynolds High School?
I don't know, it doesn't say, all it gives is the date. It says, the case title is Threats School and it's open and under investigation. And it's just,
That I don't, there's no address or anything on it?
no,
If there was just one that was reported during this time frame, then that,
it's for the detective case activity.
yeah, then not like.
Oh, if it's in the detective case activity, I can't review that because those are locked.
Okay.
So I don't know what that is that they have going on, but that would be a detective issue and not a patrol issue, and I wouldn't be able to review that.
Okay, if there was a juvenile problem the week before at Walt Maury, could this be something that tied in, maybe, I'm not saying it is, but could it be possible that it ties in with that?
It's possible, but I have no way of knowing unless I was able to look at the CAD calls.
Okay, all right, perfect, thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna say that, we'll just move on, leave the law
I
enforcement.
just want to say, I venture to say there's not too many people that go through the level of analysis that members of this group has, including officers.
Oh, yeah, I think we're just trying to figure out what we're looking at.
That means that it may not be very useful to them, especially if they're not doing that level of analysis.
I think, if we as a committee see an issue and we bring it before the council, or we're given this privilege of asking them to do special details for us, or like special locations or something, then it might be they would like to see that data that backs up why we're saying what we're saying, right? Okay.
Good point.
Okay, I'm gonna move on our agenda, so update for the public safety work group. I know you guys meet on, Tori's not here today.
We were supposed to meet last week, so we don't have an update. We will be meeting on
Yeah, it's been a
Monday.
rather quiet period of time since we last reported. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get an update next month. Okay, our agenda for next month, I believe that we're gonna be talking about this again, these reports. And let's see.
I think, I don't know how Frank feels about this, but it would be good to keep houselessness on there. I just have some thoughts regarding that in like the summer and how we might integrate, now that there's so much more use of the trails and people getting out there, to make sure everybody get along and there's no incidents.
Yeah. You're actually on topic. I'm developing a PowerPoint presentation for just that very topic. So, yeah.
Okay, and public safety work group. Go ahead, Mary.
May I ask Nick another question? I'm sorry. Are there reports not written on suicides or attempt suicides?
It depends. So those are coded under one category. If somebody has attempted suicide or is threatening to attempt suicide, or we deem them a threat to themselves or others, they will be placed on a mental hold. If they are not deemed as a candidate for a mental hold, or they don't want to voluntarily go to the hospital, generally a report is not written.
All right, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else we need on the agenda next month?
Chair, this is Frank. I was on the point in time count last year, so if you guys would like to get information on how that works, I can help you out with that.
Okay.
I could even ask PSU to come in with the actual data if you guys want to see it.
That would be
So
interesting.
that will be, you said that happens in February, so they would have the.
We have last year's results, so you're typically a year behind, which is kind of weird. There's a lot there to talk about. The statistics are questionable. It depends on how you look at it and when they're done and how they're done, the questions that are asked. Is it valid? Is it, yeah, there's a lot of debate on that. So you guys might want to be informed on it so you know what it really does accomplish. And the reality is East Multnomah County has not really been actively involved in the point in time counts, and they've usually been skewed. So
It might be great to have your perspective and have you talk about it, because isn't that also, that count is allocates some funds based upon numbers and such?
Does. Yeah, it's huge. So that's why if you're not doing, for example, like 1,000 acres, the numbers have always been skewed. And we have this huge transition in the summer that we see that isn't even recorded. So I could have 200 people here in the summer, but I only have 20 in the winter. We're only counting the 20, which means the money that's allocated will go to different places.
Is that federal or state funding?
It's
I'm sorry?
isn't it, Frank? So I think it might be a little bit of where it all comes from.
It's a mix. Yeah, the grants are a mix of both state, uh, I think even federal. Federal does a point in time count. This is across the nation, so it's typically same time, same place. Just who runs it will vary from place to place and how it's run as well. So, I mean, I think Gresham, they listed only 8 people, I think, for Gresham last year, which it was like, what? That I can count more than that just staying down in the industrial park. I have more than that in Troutdale. It's like you're killing me. So, yeah, so that it does have its pluses and minuses, though. I mean, it does like the timing is important, and it's like, how do you do a survey? And it's a quantitative study. But is it rigorous? I would debate that. So, yeah.
That Portland State's the one that developed it, or developed how to figure out how to.
They did, and that's why I say I would like, I mean, potentially I can give you my view on it, but it would be nice to have both views so that you can, there's a plus and minus, and they would say the same things I'm saying pretty much. I mean, I worked with them, and as someone who's done statistical data before, I mean, I can look at a report and tell you if it's rigorous or not. I mean, and in this case, it's skewed. I mean, there's a lot of variables and latent functions that aren't even taken into account. So, yeah. So it presents an information source that, as you were saying, goes to funding. And if the data is not accurate, I've asked Forest Service and Department of State Lands to conduct point in time counts that are accurate so that we can get the funding we need to help, finance these services that we need. So yeah, yeah, it's a big pie.
Okay.
I think you got something there, Frank, because it's a nationwide problem with the transient population that we're trying to deal with on a local level.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So you have to look at it at different levels, 30,000 feet down to ground level. And I see both. So yeah.
Okay, agenda item 12, confirm our next meeting date, February 5th. How's that work?
You should bring Valentine chocolates.
Okay,
Oh.
and then, let's get a move here. Committee member comments, let's start online. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Frank.
Good meeting. Yeah. How are you guys feeling? I mean, I've been coming to these meetings for like a year and you're still kind of wrap your head around the data. This is like this huge monster that you guys are dealing with. But the survey that you kicked out, I think is phenomenal. I was just looking at it. So if you're looking at action items, I think referring back to the survey would really be your meat and potatoes for future action items. There's a lot on there that may help you out with things that you can work on. Besides that, happy holidays, happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good to see you all. Looking forward to finding our focus and project or something.
Yeah, happy New Year. I feel very much better that I'm still trying to figure out what we're doing here, but it's only been, 4 months for me now, so it's good to hear that you guys are still spinning your wheels too, because I'm like, what? But I'm excited to keep going, because I think that I like having people who are excited about pushing forward and making good changes, and so.
as we examine it and we're working on figuring this out, I think there's probably, so I appreciate that.
I would agree, and the only thing I'd say is sometimes I've been away from it for a while, I come back and I'm like, oh, and I go back to those recesses to bring it back forward, and sometimes it's like, you know, if I keep saying the same thing, I apologize.
Good meeting, and yeah, Happy New Year, everybody, and nice to meet you.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm gonna, Kimberly, did you have any thoughts that you want to add or anything?
Just happy to assist your committee where I can. And happy New Year.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm super happy that we really have your help. I'm very happy to have that. And thank you all for being here. Happy New Year. And with that, I'll take motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
This is Twyla, I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.